And without much further ado, Dr. Wadhwani.
Thank you. So we would talk to audiences like you. And we would play, before we started our rhetoric, we basically play a PowerPoint. And the PowerPoint would have an audio. And we would show the audience an abutment. And we'd say, what we'd like you to do is imagine this abutment is in one of your patients' mouths, in your office. And you've got a crown, and you're going to cement this crown onto this abutment. We're going to provide you with some instruments and some tools. So we give them a packet, and in the packet is the crown. It's some cement, a mixing pad, a mixing spatula, several different devices to apply the cement. There was a brush, there was a spatula, and there was a probe and another instrument. We didn't show them because we didn't want to bias them. And then we simply said, what we're going to do is get you to mix this cement. Once you've mixed it, we want you to load the crown, put it in a clip, leave it, we'll pick it up later. We found 3 different qualitative methods of the way that people apply the cement. Some people, like the former picture I showed you where that expert's showing us what to do, simply throw the cement in. We called this a gross application. Some people paint it on with a brush. This was about 30% of our 400 dentist sample. This was about 55%. Then a smaller proportion of 17% preferentially loaded it round the rim. Now, what was really interesting with this rim application was that we did the study in Taiwan and Hong Kong. If you took that data out, this would have fallen to about 2%. North America does this, primarily. What we'd done to every crown before it went in the packet was we pre-weighed it. We put a marker on it so nobody knew what the marker was because we didn't want dentists to be thinking we were looking at them as individuals. So we weighed it, we marked it. What we did then was we took a series of these crowns, we filled them up to the margin with cement, said, let's call this 100%, let's weigh it. We then calculated exactly how much cement would be provided either by a manufacturer putting dye spacer on the inside of their preformed abutment, or a technician painting dye spacer on, which is as thick as nail polish or nail varnish. That came out to 3%. You only need 3% for the ideal fill.
So this is part 2 of the inconvenient truth. And I'll start with the second question we had, or one of the first questions we had, about cement flow and different techniques for application of cement. There isn't, like Chandra said, there's no protocol that exists even for application of cement within the crown. So that's the next question we had. We wanted to do a simulation in order for us to understand this. So for this simulation, we had some requirements. We needed 2 structures that fit intimately together, like a coping of an implant crown and an abutment. We needed something that could mimic the shape of an abutment, which usually has a 6 to 10 degree taper. And we needed something to mimic cement. So we were talking about the simulation. We're in the Seattle area, so we're good patrons of the 500 local Starbucks in the area. While we were there at Starbucks, we started looking at their cups, and we flipped it over. We said, look at this cup. This cup has an 8 degree taper. That looks like an implant abutment. If you put another cup over that cup, it looks like a crown is sitting on the abutment. This is what we're going to use for our simulation. And for cement, we're going to use shaving cream. The first technique we'll look at is what's recommended by the dental decks. Remember those decks we studied for our national boards? They recommend in placing cement on top of the abutment, then taking your empty crown and seating it on top of it. So let's look how that reacts. This is our abutment. We place cement on top of the abutment. Now we're seating our crown. Now what's interesting here is the flow pattern. Look at the flow pattern of the cement. Everything is flowing down towards the gingival area. Nothing is flowing back up. So we have an incomplete fill at the occlusal, and we're also pushing with high force all that cement into the gingival area, the area where we don't want the cement to be in the first place. So this probably isn't the most ideal technique. Next, we look at what's commonly done in private practice and what some of the people that are publishing are teaching us to do, filling the crown. Fill the crown. We hand our assistant the crown, they fill it with cement, they hand it back to us. If we don't drop it, we've had a good day. We put it in our patient's mouth and we say, bite. This is what's happening in private practice. So let's see how this will react. We have our crown, we're seating our crown. Now look at all of this excess cement that's being produced. Not only that, look at the fingers that are holding down the cup. Those are Shandor's fingers, and I'm taking the pictures. His fingers are blanching because that crown kept wanting to prop up. There was too much cement. It formed hydrostatic pressure. That's probably why Dr. Langer has some of those incomplete seats of those crowns, because this is a popular technique. But it's not an ideal technique. Next, we're going to look at the techniques that are popular in the Asian countries, loading the rim of the crown with cement. We loaded the rim, we seated our crown. Now what's interesting here is the flow pattern, because the flow is different. Everything's flowing up first, and then the excess comes out. So now we're actually controlling the flow of cement within our crowns. I went to dental school, I did my postgraduate training. Nobody ever taught me that. I had to go to Starbucks to figure it out.